Aren't things just wonderful? Aren't things just wonderful in the world of MMA? You know, it's amazing, isn't it? That every time it seems like we're going to be focused on one thing, something happens. Maybe that's just the theme of the network around these parts, but like, it's unbelievable, man. Hi, everybody. It's Albano from the MMA Outsiders. Now, I may look very tired, and the reason is because I am. I was out of the house running around doing things today. Came back, did the MMA Outsiders, and then I was producing Puncher's Chance. And of course, it's a very busy day in the MMA sphere, in the UFC sphere. How we have tonight the first edition of Dana White's Contender Series. And then, of course, Tough still has its final 2 episodes. So Tough is going and Tough is airing. And in the middle of all the chaos, where is it? Hold on. Nope. This happens. This happens. So Dana White is doing a post-fight press conference following week 1 of Dana White's Contender Series. And during the press conference, he says that Conor McGregor will not be fighting this year. So, Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. For those of you who have been, well, sleeping like Snorlaxes, sleeping like Sleeping Beauty, sleeping whatever. Basically, this has been a fight that's been a long time coming. I feel like Zan and I talk about this now on a weekly basis. How we're gonna get the Tough 32 fight before the Tough 31 coaches, the Tough 32 coaches fight. Pardon me, before the Tough 31 coaches fight. And guess what? Now we may never even get the Tough 31 coaches fight. There was all this clamoring about, okay, it's going to be the end of 2023. Everything came and went. You know, it was UFC 292, actually, first. That came and went. Then the rumors were for UFC 296. That came and went. Then the rumors were for UFC 300. And that came and went. And there was a whole thing about that the TKO, the parent company of the UFC and the WWE, wanted to save Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler for a card that's going to basically need that little extra boost. And so that's where UFC 303 came in, because, you know, they could build International Fight Week around the fight. And then the infamous now toe incident happens, and press conference canceled, fights postponed, and then all the clamoring turns toward December. And we'll talk about December in a little bit. But apparently Dana White has officially put the kibosh on that. So Dana White has officially put the kibosh on that. Actually, let me go to Connor's response, because he actually did. Let me get. All right. Let me get the full audio for you.
Met it all and talked about the potential of his fight as well.
We talked, yeah. We talked. We didn't meet up, but we talked. And yeah, he wants to fight, so we'll figure it out.
Soon? This by the end
Not
of the
this year.
series?
He won't fight this year.
Okay, so MMA media speaking. I think I actually might have been Amy Kaplan of Fansided. Basically saying, saying, oh, what's going on with Conor Chandler? Dana mentioning Conor and he have talked, and just going by like almost similar to the speculation that we had, you know, when the UFC 303 press conference first got canceled. Like, is there something there that he did not like? And look, I'm sorry if I seem speechless, but I have nothing else that I can really say. I mean, this fight, you know what? Let me put it in MMA terms. I tap out. I'm done. I'm finished. maybe there is still a chance it happens in December, but I said it on the show a number of times. I said if this fight gets postponed again, if more BS happens again, I'm done. So I'm done. I don't care for this fight anymore. Well, what purpose does this fight serve other than getting Conor McGregor on there? What purpose does this fight serve other than giving Michael Chandler a payday or, as in the Conor talk, a red panty night? What purpose does this fight serve for anything? I mean, you have Conor McGregor, who hasn't won a meaningful fight since 2016. And then you've got Michael Chandler, who's coming off a couple of losses. And now Michael Chandler has just basically wasted away all of 2023. And it's going to be just about all, if not all, of 2024 chasing this Conor McGregor fight. I know, it's hard to pass up the idea of fighting Conor McGregor and getting a payday. But look at all of the Mets. This man, granted, Stipe Miocic hasn't fought since 2021 either. Conor McGregor only fought 4 months or so after Stipe Miocic, and we haven't seen him around since then too. We saw him hosting that one tough season last season, which, by the way, Tough 31. Now, granted, it gave us the start of Tough Enough here on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network, but it was a waste. I'm sorry. Our time was wasted thinking that we were actually going to get the fight because it was going to serve as the comeback for Conor McGregor. Well, now I have a response for this. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back. I'm done. Conor McGregor, you know that really disrespectful "please retire" chant in pro wrestling? Yeah, I'm applying it here. Please retire. I've given up. And that seems to be the common response across MMA Twitter. That seemed to be the response. When I was producing Board Hopping Puncher's Chance, which is going out tomorrow night, where you'll actually get to see me break in and them give their real live reaction. And that is, Conor McGregor ain't ever fighting again. He's never going to fight again. And granted, he has all the money in the world. Granted, he is a superstar. He is probably the best superstar that the UFC has ever had in terms of star power, in terms of drawing, in terms of being a draw, in terms of pay-per-view buys. Yeah, he was. The pay-per-view buy rates have shown it. They prove it. The UFC records in terms of gates or in terms of pay-per-view buys with 202 and 229. They prove it. There can't be any denying it. But at this point, that was once upon a time. And the UFC, if they're going to continue to chase this, I mean, I'm at the point now where if Conor McGregor fights again, who's not to say it's going to be in bare knuckle fighting at this point? Because he's a part owner there. I mean, seriously. It's ridiculous. There's a chance of everything. Oh, by the way, when I said before, maybe Dana saw something that he didn't like. I mean, isn't it weird that Conor McGregor, who is still technically under UFC contract, and I'm not talking a contract where it's like, George Masvidal, for instance, where technically Masvidal still has 2 more fights on his deal, but he is considered retired, and the UFC is basically giving him the thumbs up to do, something like boxing Nate Diaz. Conor McGregor he has announced retirements before, but we've seen how those go. So Conor McGregor is still on an active deal. So I'm guessing he got the thumbs up for the bare knuckle stuff. It just looks weird where he's talking, he teased about a month or so ago, maybe you'll see me in bare knuckle at some point. Teasing a bare knuckle fight. Yeah, it looks bad when the face. Well, I don't know if I can say face now, considering he hasn't, competed in 3 years. But still, in terms of star power, in terms of draw, one of the faces of your promotion, of your MMA promotion, is promoting a bare knuckle fighting, promoting BKFC. So at this point, it feels like a case of hook, line, and sinker. Because if the UFC, and I'll go as far as Michael Chandler, continue to try and push for this fight, Conor McGregor is playing them like a fiddle, playing them like a toy. It's pathetic. And considering, if they're going to continue to try and push this, and if all of a sudden, within the next month or two, we hear, Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler confirmed for UFC 311 or UFC 312 or UFC 313. First of all, I'm not going to believe it because I have continued to not believe this is going to happen until they actually get in the cage and fight. And second of all, if they try to book this fight again, maybe not so much on the Chandler side, but the UFC side, they continue to try and chase this. Do not come after me and say, I had that take a while back, and I've said this take a number of times. The UFC needs Conor McGregor more than Conor McGregor needs the UFC. And if they and look, the UFC is going to say, "Oh, but we have Alex Pereira." And yes, you do. We have Tom Aspinall. Oh, wait a minute. Never mind, because Dana White is going to come after me and give me a whole 30-minute lecture about how John Jones is the best pound for pound fighter in the world, even though he's fought one time in the last 3 or 4 years. Seriously. What is this? Is this, talk about John Jones and Conor McGregor and the rates they fight? What is this, like WWE, where we have the part-time wrestlers coming in? Look, yes, you have Sean O'Malley. Yes, you have Alex Pereira. And you can build things around them. I mean, hell, Israel Adesanya is returning this weekend. But, they will chase after a Conor McGregor pay-per-view card just because of the draw power that he has. It's almost a guaranteed a guaranteed million plus pay-per-view buys. It is. So, on that note alone, don't tell me that Conor McGregor needs the UFC. UFC needs Conor McGregor. Do they really need him? No. But I say it once and I say it again. And the silly thing is, like I just said, Conor McGregor doesn't need the UFC because he's got all the money that he needs. Now, I feel bad for Michael Chandler, but Mike, look at me. Look at me. Enough. It's over. Go chase something else. I feel bad. I loved seeing Michael Chandler in the UFC. I loved the run that he had started on. He came this close. If he had a little more time in that first round at 262, he would have finished Charles Oliveira and been a UFC lightweight champion. And I wish he would have gone to Conor McGregor fight either last year or at some point this year, but that looks dead in the water. That looks dead in the proper 12 waters. So, Mike, it's time to move on. And that now leaves a big question. That leaves a big question now as to, actually, I say a big question. I mean, I've only been talking about it for weeks at this point. I feel like I've been screaming into the void on the MMA Outsiders that they needed a backup plan. So, here we go. And I hope my co-host Dan is watching this because, we kind of do it on, tomorrow's edition of the MMA Outsiders, but now we got to do it now, an emergency case. Let's put scheduler caps on. So, John Jones is fighting Stipe Miocic in November. Almost seems like a guarantee. Dana didn't completely talk about it, but it seemed like kind of hint at it. So he's off the table, and because of that, Aspinall is off the table. And Aspinall defended his title anyway. Technically, he could go again. He knocked out in 60 seconds, but you just had him defend the interim championship. You got to guarantee him next in line for Jones Stipe, so they're out of the picture. Alex Pereira. I have talked about this. If there is somebody who has proven, he can take what could have been or would have been a Conor McGregor headlined card and still make the most of it and still have a tremendous gate and a tremendous buy rate, it has been Alex Pereira. He did it with 300 and he did it with 303. So why not put him on 310? Problem is, they booked the guy who really should have been number one contender, Magomed Ankalaev, but I guess Dana and matchmakers' hatred of him, of course, is going to win out. And the UFC at this point, some people have theorized, since we're dropping out from light heavyweight to middleweight, the title's on the line this weekend with Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya. And now, Dana mentioned very recently, Sean Strickland is guaranteed the winner. But as I allude to tomorrow on the MMA Outsiders, you really think if Izzy wins and now this BS is going on, that they won't be tempted to do Izzy Pereira 3, technically Izzy Pereira 5, and you consider 2 kickboxing fights. You don't think they would run Izzy versus Alex at UFC 310 at 205, champion versus champion? You're mistaken. They so would do that. Now, there's also the potential that maybe for UFC 310, they throw Bilal Muhammad to the wolves and give him to Shavkat Rakhmonov for a welterweight title defense. And then there's the lightweight title, which Islam Makhachev is injured. He's not going to be able to defend in Abu Dhabi. That's why we've got Max Holloway challenging Ilya Tapura for the featherweight title in Abu Dhabi. But Arman Sarukian has recently stated he wants to fight, and he's willing to do an interim title fight. So, there's a possibility too. And myself and Zan talk about it tomorrow on the MMA Outsiders. But if Mateusz Gamrot wins against Dan Hooker this weekend and he's cleared and good to go for December, it's an interim title fight. Maybe you have to book it with a real title fight to go alongside it, but it's a fight, and it's going to be a fight worth seeing. It's a fight that really would be worth seeing, Arman Sarukian versus Mateusz Gamrot. So, at this point, you have to consider other options, both the UFC and Michael Chandler. And by the way, let me bring this one up, because his response. All right, pulled it up here. Quote, Dana, December is the date. Oh, hold on, let me counter that. Dana, December is the date. Bring the calendar year home with a winning event. Come on now, what's this? I'm off to altitude next month to prepare. December. Tell Dana and UFC we want December. We deserve December. You know what you deserve. That's what you deserve. Give it a break. Like I said, you have all the money in the world. You're part owner of bare knuckle fighting. And you see what the draws and the improvements and everything that they're doing this year. Give it a break. He's never coming back. If any of you out there still are clinging on to hope, dare I say, in the words of a certain Disney film, let it go, let it go. It's over. I don't know what else to say. It's over. He's never coming back. It's ridiculous. All right. Thank you for allowing me to rant for nearly 20 minutes on this subject. Um, but yeah, so for those of you who completely missed it, Dana White at the Dana White Contender Series Week 1 post-fight press conference has announced Conor McGregor will not fight in 2024. A fight with Michael Chandler at this point may not happen until 2025. It may not happen at all. And I am on the side of it's never going to happen. And maybe, just maybe, the world of the UFC and maybe even the world of MMA would just be better off if Conor McGregor retired. All right. Just quickly, make sure to follow us at MMA Outsiders ETB. Make sure to follow the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Subscribe to us here on youtube.com/ETB Network. We're passing 830 plus subscribers. Help us continue our climb to 1,000. And of course, listen to the MMA, wrong banner. Listen to the MMA Outsiders wherever you get your podcasts. And you know what? It's at the end. But every broadcast that we do here at the Empty the Bench Podcast Network is presented by Playback. So I do want to give our friends over at Playback a little bit of love. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETV Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. You can check myself and Zambando out for the next edition of Fight Study, UFC 305 Fight Study. That will be at playback.tv/ETV Network. Thursday morning, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 a.m. Pacific. We'll see you there. Thank you for letting me rant on this. Again, looks like Conor McGregor is not fighting in 2024 if he's ever fighting again at all. I'm Tom Albano. Peace out, everybody.